Welcome to Pro Practice, your guide to piano mastery. I'm Josh Wright, and today's tutorial will be focusing on the first piece from Claude Debussy's Children's Corner. The first piece in this set is called Dr. Gradus ad Parnassum, or Steps to Parnassus, which is alluding to all the sets of piano exercises and other books that went by that name. It jokes around about the excessive and tedious exercises of Clementi and Czerny and others. Debussy even told his publisher this movement should be played very early in the morning. And it definitely focuses a lot on finger independence, but he makes a beautiful piece of music out of this. So even though it sounds a little bit like an exercise at the beginning, it really is a wonderful piece and something that I studied when I was a young child. I recently taught this to two different students in two completely different levels. One is a very advanced player, and he said, I want to play this for my daughter who is being born in a few weeks, and his daughter has now safely arrived, so congratulations to Chris. And also to one of my other students who had just started out with me as a beginner, and he's moving beautifully and quickly through the piano repertoire and really reaching this intermediate or even early advanced level. The reason I wanted to make this tutorial right now, even though I haven't played it in probably 25 or 26 years, because I just taught it, I have a lot of fresh ideas about this. 2, it's been highly requested on the channel. And 3, I want to talk about differences with tempo that you can take that make this piece more accessible for a lower level, and then you can obviously increase the tempo as you get into a higher level. So just a few side notes before we get started. This was extremely successful. This sold over 20,000 copies during Debussy's lifetime. The little inscription at the top says, "To my dear little Chou-Chou," which was his daughter's nickname. Claude-Emma was her name. She was only 3 years old when this was published. He said, "To my dear little Chou-Chou, with tender apologies from her father for what follows." So a lot of humor here. First of all, making fun of all the exercises with the piece and then the inscription. Very endearing set of music. And early on in pro practice, I think this was 10 years ago, we covered Golliwogg's Cakewalk, which also comes from Children's Corner. So if you want more pieces, I also have a tutorial on that. Before we get started with the instruction part of today's tutorial, I thought I would go ahead and just play a small portion of this for those of you who may not be familiar with the piece. Okay, so a lot of light, fast textures. Before we go any further, I want to also show that in a slower tempo and show you that it's still beautiful and it still can be played with a lot of expression, and it's still satisfying to listen to. A lot of times if we play like, it's not all that satisfying to hear that Chopin etude played in that tempo. This piece is not like that. I think that you can, I mean, he writes moderately animated, so that's a pretty loose term. Even this. That tempo is just fine, and it offers the student a chance to play a beautiful work with a lot of variety and texture, rather than just, again, kind of going off of Debussy's theme, killing themselves with a bunch of exercises. I think getting students into great music early on is one of the best things a teacher can do to help the student's development, because when the student has more imagination and creativity and can explore these beautiful works, they develop at a great pace and their mind is stimulated more. They experiment more during their practice sessions, and they discover more about their musicality rather than just tedious exercises, training the fingers. When the imagination is stimulated, the technique is benefited. That's one of the great phenomenons that I've come across in my life. When I'm thinking musically, the technique becomes easier. Talked a little bit about this in another recent pro practice tutorial on the Burgmüller Ballade. How you don't have to take breakneck tempos to make the piece satisfying. And also when you think musically, the technique will unfold easier. So I want to start out with talking about some basic mechanics of playing, and also just give you some fingering for the first 6 bars. I'll give you some fingering toward the end as well when we get into these textures. I went through and kind of organized those with a very logical fingering for each of you, so that if you are having trouble there, that you will have some guidance about how to organize those to play them. That's another concept that we'll be going over. Sometimes just organizing the music mentally in a certain way can help you play it with more ease. So I hope today's tutorial is helpful. Let's get started. I want to, again, just give you the fingering, and then we'll go over some hand motions that can help you navigate this piece, and then we'll dive right into the expression after that. So I'll just go through the right hand here to begin with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 5, 4. Now you have an option here. So we're at the beginning of measure 2 here. You can do 1, the first note of measure 2 is a 4, but then you can do 1, 2, 4, 5, because we just played a 4 on that E, or you can switch to a 3. 1, 2, 3, 5, or 1, 2, 4, 5, up to you. Okay, continuing on. Second note of beat 2, it's divided into 16th notes. This is the 2 E anda, on the B. 1, 2, 5, 4, 1, 2. Again, an option 3 or 4 here. 4, 5, 1, 3, 5, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me say that. 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, 1, 2, 5, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4. Now, if 1, 2, 4, 3 feels a little big, if you have tiny hands, you can also do things like 1, 3, 5, 4, 1, 3, 5, 4, 1, 3, 5, 4, 1, 3, 5, 4. However, I like to avoid 3, 4, and 5 coming in sequence whenever possible. That's why this Chopin etude is so darn difficult. The entire thing is 3, 4, 5 throughout the entire piece. So anytime we can get into the stronger portion of the hand, 3, 2, and 1, is better. So I like throughout here 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3. That's why I gave that. I think it's a little bit easier. We're also going to be coming to the concept of voicing here soon enough, as soon as I explain some hand motions. And that, I think, also helps to be on a slightly stronger finger of 3 to help voice out some of those notes that the third finger falls on. Okay, so far as how to move at the piano, I've said this so darn many times that hopefully it's not getting annoying. But if this is your first tutorial that you're seeing of pro practice, I like to review this. And for those of you who've seen many, if you've forgotten, these are helpful. Logan Skelton always talked about, my teacher at the University of Michigan during my doctoral studies talked about how, as humans, we're really good at this motion, like turning a doorknob. We're really good at this motion, this waving motion, and really good at hinging our hands. And we're not so good at waving our fingers. And a lot of times students will try to navigate the keyboard by moving their fingers laterally like that to get into positions. And if you use the entire mechanism, think of it hanging all the way from the shoulder, down the forearm, through the wrist, through the hand, down into the fingertip. Of course, the finger plays. Some schools of thought focus so much on rotation that we forget that, you know, it's actually the finger that's playing the note. And we do need finger activity, but it's the entire mechanism that's going to help us navigate to make the finger action easier to execute. So on these, I'm just doing these little circles So I come up, so I come down and around, and then up and over, and then back down and around. Okay, now when we get to here, let's start talking about voicing. Debussy double stems this C here on beat 2 of measure 3. And then he double stems this. That's an indication that he wants us to bring that out. You could think of, hey, this is my soprano voice, and it shares a note with my alto voice. But the alto voice is much softer and happening below it. And I would say in terms of hierarchy of the most important notes, the soprano would come first, and then this tenor and bass. The reason I say tenor and bass, he has a C going up, there's tenor, and then bass. This isn't a 4-part chorale, don't get me wrong. I'm just using these terms to kind of denote which voice we're talking about. So we have tenor holding through, then we have this bass line going. Okay, I would say soprano's the most important, then this bottom voice, which forms this lovely little duet, is the next most important, and then all the busy notes in between. Think of those as like watercolors or just little wispy paintbrush strokes. So I want you to be thinking about this from day one. A lot of students are like, let me get my notes and my rhythm good first. And I do agree, you do need to get the notes and the rhythm right. But if you think about these artistic concepts from the beginning, it will save you a lot of time in the future. So let's keep going here with some expression on the first line. One idea, he writes this acciaccatura, this little grace note down here that goes up to the C. I went through my notes on my iPad because I write all of these notes on my iPad and send them to my students, these annotated PDFs of the score. And I went through and actually transferred a lot of these onto this hard copy. I actually purchased this in the Henley app and then just printed out a version to use for a little bit more ease of use so I could see 2 pages at once here. So this is the Henley edition, which I highly recommend getting. But I went through and I marked a bunch of things. And one thing that I remember teaching one of those 2 students is that we should hold that bottom C for resonance. It's not that Debussy is saying you need to hold it. He could have written ties and held it out the whole time. But I just think, listen to the difference. Versus, I think that just has a lot more beautiful resonance down there. Okay, and so far as the expression on this first line, maybe a little crescendo to there, and then less. And then put the pedal down here. And then we'll start changing with each beat. Change, change, change. When I say change, it just means up, down in the pedal. You can look at that pedal cam. And that is a really tough section. So go through the fingering, get that nice and smooth, and start thinking about that voicing. Now, let's do a couple of exercises that should really help with voicing.